Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, to me, this kind of thing is selfish. To hold on to a position of power so desperately, there's clearly only one motive. It's selfishness every time. Personal interest above the interest of the citizen. You know, for me, there's simply no excuse here. How could you possibly justify somebody who's over 80 years old and in clear poor health to continue not only serving as a senator, but as the leader of the Republican Senate? Mitch McConnell should retire. He should resign from his position, he should let somebody else take his place, and if he won't do it, then voters should simply make it happen themselves. And it seems like we're finally heading to this basic standard. You know, if you think about it, the onus really falls on voters themselves. Well, it seems like finally that basic standard is becoming a more popular belief, as calls for Mitch McConnell to retire grow. In fact, at his most recent event in Kentucky, he was heckled by the crowd for 5 minutes straight, with chants of retire and ditch Mitch being yelled nonstop from the crowd. Let me show you guys what happened. Let me show you guys what's going on. Now let's have a conversation about the greater topic at large like we usually do. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so let's first start off with the viral moment. Watch, Mitch McConnell heckled, met with chants of retire and ditch Mitch. Voters welcomed Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell with chants of retire and ditch Mitch at Fancy Farms picnic in Kentucky over the weekend. Throughout the senator's 5-minute speech, people could be heard booing while chanting, "Lost the Senate, retire and ditch Mitch." McConnell maintained a straight face and kept soldiering through. Take a look.
I just told David Beck his introduction is longer than my speech. Elaine and I are really excited to be back at Fancy Farm on behalf of the strongest Republican team we've ever run in our state. I want to thank Father Venters and Stephen Elder for finding a way to keep Fancy Farm going, even with pork prices going through the roof. Thanks to the Kentucky State Police and local law enforcement.
Now, of course, the way the media will probably spin this is that it's just rowdy Trump supporters being extreme and disrespectful as usual. But speaking as usual, I see the situation totally different. What I'm seeing is a justified protest. When the Senate Minority Leader is suffering what seems to be a minor stroke mid-sentence,
and a string of
Are you good, Mitch?
Okay, Mitch? Anything else you want to say, or should I just go back to your office? Do you want to say anything else to the press? Go back.
Go ahead, John.
I'll take it back. Let's go back to you.
Go ahead, John.
well, then I think it's probably time to retire. Just think about how selfish you need to be in such bad shape to know that you're deeply unpopular, one of the most unpopular politicians in America, according to polling data, yet you still cling on so desperately to your leadership position, not only in the Senate, but as a senator in the first place. You know, it's been decades of the status quo, decades of same old, decades of life getting worse for your average person. Clearly, it's time for change. Clearly, it's time for a new perspective, especially considering how much the world has changed. But government doesn't change. Representation doesn't change. This guy's been in office for decades with all the same boomer ideas that got us here in the first place. And the frustrating element is that when there is change, when there's a new grassroots movement, a different conservative perspective that becomes popularized, well, guys like Mitch don't get with the program. They grift the program and then work to subvert it behind the scenes. You know, as an elected politician, you're a public servant. different. Yet all these clowns in office seem to serve one person and one person alone, and that's themselves. Senator Mitch McConnell has been in Congress since 1985. That's insane. That is nearly 40 years. I mean, it's hard enough to justify 40 years in an elected position, but it's even harder to justify considering now that his health is clearly deteriorating. Can't exactly vote him out considering his term of service expires in 2027. Again, further putting it into perspective, Mitch McConnell is locked in as most likely Senate leader, or at least in the Senate, for another 4 years. He's going to be almost 86 by the time he's done. It makes no sense. And the Dianne Feinstein situation makes no sense either. You know, I think it's something that's puzzled people for a very long time. How these people get elected over and over and over again. I mean, how can this guy just keep winning elections? How does he do it? We could chalk it up to boomer voters who view him as the most experienced man for the job. And sure, that may be a factor, but I think the real reason why these fossils keep getting elected is because they control the funds. In the 2020 election, Mitch McConnell was controlling the money. You can't realistically run against that guy. In fact, you can't run against him or his friends or his interest. There is too much consolidated power. There's too much incentive to grasp that power and never let go. And that's the problem. In fact, this guy is the face of that problem, at least on the Republican side. And Nancy Pelosi is the face of that problem on the Democrat side. Nancy Pelosi and, of course, are very close confidants. You know, times change, and government should probably change with it. Here's an example that comes to mind. Cryptocurrency, AI, digital currencies in general, these are technological innovations and advancements that are happening fast. But there's a whole lot of uncertainty, there's a whole lot of issues that surround these topics. Maybe the people who are writing legislation should have a basic understanding of the technology. You can't be 90 years old and write or sponsor legislation related to these topics when you don't even know how to operate a smartphone. So yeah, I guess in short, the protest to Mitch McConnell is totally justified. I agree with it 100%. And I think it's a trend in the right direction. Like I said in the intro, it really falls on the voter, and it's nice to finally see basic standards, you know? That's the beauty of the Trump era. I don't care what anyone says. They love to label it as extreme, but the discontent with the status quo, the deep state, these uniparty political actors is something that I believe is long overdue. It's a legitimate concern, voter frustration, whatever you want to call it. Challenging the status quo, and the status quo is clearly not working, is clearly absolute crap, is totally justified. In other words, Turtle Mitch, you're almost 82 years old, you can't walk, you're falling all over the place, you don't represent new modern conservative values, you're a relic of the past, you're unhealthy, you're suffering friggin' mini strokes. It's probably time to retire and sit on a rocking chair on your porch. I think it's time to do the right thing. But of course, don't count on it. Doing the right thing and slimy politician, those two concepts very rarely end up in one sentence together. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know that we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.